You wake up and the dream is still there. Vivid, detailed, more real than the room you're in. You can still feel the emotions, see the faces, remember conversations that never happened. And as you move through your morning routine, brushing your teeth, making coffee, the dream doesn't fade the way it should. It lingers. It follows you. By the time you're at work, at school, going through the motions of your day, you're only half present because the other half of you is still somewhere else, still processing the world you inhabited while you slept, still trying to understand what it meant, why you dreamed it, what your subconscious is trying to tell you. And this isn't occasional. This is every single night, every single morning. You dream so intensely, so consistently, so memorably that your dream life feels as substantial as your waking life. Sometimes more substantial, sometimes more meaningful. And you wonder if this is normal, if other people experience sleep this way, if everyone lives in two worlds, or if you are somehow different, somehow more connected to the unconscious realm than most. Welcome to the psychology of people who dream every day. And if this is you, you already know what it is like to live with one foot in reality and one foot in something else. Something deeper. Something that won't let you go. This is about more than just having dreams. Everyone dreams. Even people who claim they don't. Science has proven that. But there's a specific type of person who doesn't just dream. They remember. They absorb. They carry their dreams into waking life like precious cargo. For them, dreams aren't random neural firings that dissolve with morning light. They're experiences, messages, portals to something meaningful. Today we're diving deep into why some people dream so vividly and frequently, what's happening in their brains that makes the boundary between sleeping and waking so permeable. And what this reveals about consciousness, creativity, and the parts of ourselves we can only access when our rational minds shut down. Because people who dream every day aren't just sleeping differently. They're processing reality differently. They're accessing parts of their psyche that others rarely reach. And understanding this tells us something profound about human consciousness and the mysteries of the mind. Let's start with what's actually happening neurologically. During REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs, your brain is almost as active as when you're awake. The visual cortex lights up, creating the imagery of dreams. The amygdala, your emotional center, becomes hyperactive, which is why dreams feel so emotionally intense. But here's what's fascinating. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and reality testing, is significantly less active. This is why dreams make perfect sense while you're in them, even when they're completely absurd. Your brain has temporarily disabled the part that says, wait, this doesn't make sense. So you accept flying, impossible architecture, dead relatives, being alive, time distortions, all of it. But people who dream every day and remember those dreams vividly tend to have some neurological differences. Research from the Lyon Neuroscience Research Center found that high dream recallers have increased activity in the temporoparietal junction, an area of the brain involved in attention and processing external stimuli. Essentially, their brains are more reactive, more attentive, even during sleep. They wake up more frequently during the night, even if only 4 seconds. And these micro-awakenings allow dreams to transfer from short-term to long-term memory. So they're not necessarily dreaming more than others. They're just catching their dreams, capturing them before they dissolve. There's also a personality component that can't be ignored. Studies published in the journal Consciousness and Cognition found that people who frequently remember their dreams tend to score higher on measures of creativity, openness to experience, and fantasy. They're the artists, the writers, the musicians, the people who live partially in their imaginations, even when awake. Their minds are naturally more fluid, less bound by concrete reality, more comfortable with ambiguity and symbolism. For these people, dreams aren't weird anomalies that need to be dismissed. They are natural extensions of how their minds already work. They think in metaphors, in images, in narratives. So when they dream, it feels familiar. It feels meaningful. It feels like their subconscious is speaking a language they already understand. And they pay attention because paying attention to the symbolic, the imaginal, is already how they navigate waking life. Let's talk about what it actually feels like to be someone who dreams every day. Because it's not just about remembering stories your brain created while you slept. It's about living in expanded consciousness. When you wake up from a vivid dream, there's a disorientation that can last minutes or even hours. You have to reorient yourself. Remind yourself what's real. Sometimes you wake up angry at someone for something they did in your dream. Sometimes you wake up grieving a loss that never happened. Sometimes you wake up in love with a person who doesn't exist. The emotional residue is real even though the events weren't. And throughout the day, fragments of the dream resurface. A smell triggers a memory of the dream. A conversation echoes something that was said by a dream character. You find yourself thinking about the dream, analyzing it, trying to decode it, and this can be beautiful. This richness, this depth. But it can also be exhausting because you're essentially processing two lives, the one you're living and the one you're dreaming. And the dream life demands attention. It won't be ignored. There's a concept in psychology called thin boundaries. It was developed by researcher Ernest Hartman, who studied people who remember their dreams frequently. He found that these people have what he called thin boundaries between states of consciousness, between self and other, between past and present, between reality and fantasy. They're more permeable, more porous. Ideas, emotions, images flow more easily between their conscious and unconscious minds. This makes them more empathetic because they can easily imagine themselves in others' experiences. It makes them more creative because ideas from the unconscious can surface readily, but it also makes them more vulnerable. They're more affected by emotions, both their own and others. They have difficulty separating themselves from what they absorb, and their dreams can feel so real, so impactful, that they blur the line between sleeping and waking life. For people with thick boundaries, dreams are just dreams. They wake up, shake it off, move on. But for people with thin boundaries, dreams are experiences that require processing, integration, respect. Here's something that people who dream every day often discover. Their dreams are trying to tell them something, not in a mystical, prophetic sense, though some believe that too, but in a psychological sense. Dreams are how the unconscious mind processes experiences, emotions, conflicts that the conscious mind hasn't fully dealt with. Carl Jung devoted his life to studying dreams and believed they were messages from the self to the self, containing wisdom that the ego needs but isn't accessing. Modern neuroscience supports this to some degree. Dreams help consolidate memories, process emotions, work through problems. They're like overnight therapy sessions your brain conducts without your permission. So people who remember their dreams are essentially getting direct access to their own psychological processing. They're seeing what their minds are working through, what they're afraid of, what they desire, what they're avoiding. And this can be incredibly valuable if you know how to interpret it. But it can also be overwhelming because sometimes your unconscious reveals things you're not ready to see. Let's examine the cultural and historical context. For most of human history, dreams were considered sacred, prophetic messages from gods or ancestors. Indigenous cultures around the world have dream practices, dream sharing, dream interpretation as central to their spiritual lives. But modern Western culture has largely dismissed dreams as meaningless, as random, as your brain taking out the trash. This creates a strange situation for people who dream vividly and feel the significance of those dreams. They're experiencing something that feels deeply meaningful, but the culture tells them it's nonsense, so they learn to keep it to themselves. They don't share their dreams because people will think they're weird, overly mystical, or just wasting time on meaningless brain static. But this silencing has a cost, because dreams, whether you believe they're mystical or purely neurological, are part of your inner life. And inner life needs expression, needs witnessing, needs integration. When you dismiss or hide your dreams, you're dismissing and hiding parts of yourself. There's also the question of lucid dreaming. People who dream frequently and vividly are more likely to experience lucid dreams. Dreams where they become aware they're dreaming and can sometimes control the dream. Research from the Max Planck Institute found that frequent dream recall is strongly correlated with lucid dreaming ability. And lucid dreaming is its own fascinating phenomenon. When you're lucid in a dream, you're conscious in two states simultaneously. You know you're asleep, you know this isn't real, but you're also fully immersed in the experience. And for many people, lucid dreams are where they feel most free, most creative, most alive. They can fly, create worlds, meet people, explore without physical limitations. Some use lucid dreaming for creative, others use it for healing, confronting fears in a space where the physical consequences don't exist. Others use it simply for joy, for the pure pleasure of conscious exploration of the unconscious realm. But not everyone who dreams frequently can lucid dream, and not all lucid dreamers find it pleasant. Sometimes becoming conscious in a dream triggers fear or causes the dream to collapse, but the possibility is there, closer for people whose relationship with dreaming is already more intimate. Now, let's talk about the shadow side, because dreaming every day isn't always pleasant. Nightmares are also dreams, and people who dream vividly don't just have beautiful, meaningful dreams. They have terrifying ones, disturbing ones, traumatic ones. And when you remember your dreams this clearly, nightmares can be devastating. You wake up in genuine fear. Your body is in fight or flight mode. Your heart is pounding. And the images, the feelings, they stick with you. Some people who dream frequently deal with recurring nightmares. The same themes, the same fears, the same deaths playing out night after night. This is often linked to unprocessed trauma. PTSD is characterized by intrusive dreams that replay traumatic events or symbolic representations of them. For people with trauma histories who also happen to be high dream recallers, sleep can become a battlefield. They're afraid to go to sleep because they know what's waiting for them. And when they do sleep, when they do dream, they wake up more exhausted than when they went to bed. This is serious. This impacts quality of life, and it requires professional help, often therapy that specifically addresses nightmares, like imagery rehearsal therapy, which helps people rewrite their nightmares while awake. There's an interesting relationship between dreaming and waking creativity. Many artists, writers, musicians, scientists report that their best ideas come from dreams. Paul McCartney dreamed the melody for Yesterday. Mary Shelley dreamed the concept for Frankenstein. Dmitri Mendeleev saw the periodic table in a dream. This isn't coincidence. The dreaming brain makes connections that the waking brain doesn't. It's associative rather than linear. It combines elements in novel ways. It's uninhibited by logic or practicality. So for creative people who dream every day, dreams become a resource. A wellspring. They keep dream journals by their beds. They wake up and immediately write down what they saw, what they felt, what strange combination of ideas their unconscious produced. And then they mine that material. They turn dreams into art, into stories, into scientific breakthroughs. Their dream life feeds their waking work, and their waking work often feeds their dreams. It's a reciprocal relationship, a conversation between conscious and unconscious that produces something neither could produce alone. Let's discuss the isolation that can come with being someone who dreams so vividly, because when your inner life is this rich, this all-consuming, it can be hard to connect with people who don't share that experience. You try to tell someone about a dream that felt profound to you, and you watch their eyes glaze over. They're polite, but they don't get it. They don't feel the significance. They can't understand why you're still thinking about something that happened in your sleep. So you stop sharing, you keep your dream life private, and this creates a loneliness, a sense that a huge part of who you are, this entire realm of experience, is invisible to others. Some people who dream frequently seek out others like them. Dream groups, online communities, spaces where dream sharing is normalized and valued. And when they find these spaces, there's relief, recognition. Finally, people who understand, who don't think you're strange for caring about your dreams, who have their own vivid dream lives and want to talk about them. These communities can be healing. They validate an experience that mainstream culture dismisses. There's also a spiritual dimension for many people. Not everyone who dreams frequently is spiritual, but many are, because dreaming can feel like evidence of something beyond material reality. How can something that feels so real, so meaningful, so full of wisdom, be just random neurons firing? How can you meet deceased loved ones in dreams and have conversations that feel genuine, that provide comfort, if it's all just brain chemistry? This is where neuroscience and spirituality diverge. Science says dreams are the brain processing information. Spirituality says dreams are the soul traveling, communicating, accessing other dimensions. And many people who dream every day hold both views simultaneously. They accept the neuroscience while also believing there's something more. That dreams are both neurological and mystical. That the brain is the mechanism, but consciousness is the mystery. And they don't see these as contradictory. They see them as complementary ways of understanding the same profound experience. Here's what's particularly interesting about frequent dreamers. Many report that their dreams are interconnected, that there are recurring locations they return to across different dreams, dream houses they've explored over years, dream cities with consistent geography, dream characters who appear again and again, who have ongoing relationships with them across multiple dreams. It's as if they have a parallel life, a dream life with continuity, with narrative, with development. And this experience is utterly fascinating to researchers studying consciousness because it suggests that dreaming isn't just random. There's structure, there's memory within the dream state, there's a self that exists in dreams that maintains some kind of continuity separate from waking consciousness. What does that mean? Is there a dream self, a version of you that only exists when you sleep? And if so, what's the relationship between that self and the waking you? These are questions that push at the boundaries of what we understand about consciousness, identity, and the nature of reality itself. Let's talk about the practical challenges, because dreaming every day, while fascinating and sometimes beautiful, can interfere with waking life. Some people are so immersed in their dream lives that they struggle to be fully present during the day. They're distracted, preoccupied, living partially in the memory of last night's dream. This can affect work performance, relationships, daily functioning. Partners complain that you're distant in the mornings, still processing dreams. Colleagues notice you're not fully engaged in meetings. You miss details, forget things because your attention is divided between two realities. And sleep itself can become numb. If you're dreaming intensely every night, if your brain is that active during sleep, you might wake up tired. REM sleep is important, but so is deep sleep, the truly restorative stage. And if you're spending most of the night in intense REM, you might not be getting enough of the other stages. This can lead to chronic fatigue, difficulty concentrating, weakened immune function. So managing your dream life becomes important. Sleep hygiene, stress management, sometimes even working with a sleep specialist to optimize sleep architecture. There's research suggesting that high dream recall might be linked to higher levels of neuroticism and anxiety. A study from the University of California found that people who remember their dreams frequently tend to worry more, ruminate more, have more active minds in general. Their brains don't easily quiet down. Even during sleep, they're processing, analyzing, creating narratives. This can be exhausting. The mind that dreams vividly is often the mind that can't stop thinking when awake, that lies in bed at night with thoughts racing, that processes every interaction, every experience, every emotion intensely. So dreaming every day might be part of a broader pattern of cognitive intensity. And while this intensity can fuel creativity and depth, it also requires management, meditation, therapy, practices that help quiet the mind, that create space between thoughts, that allow for genuine rest. Here's something people who dream every day often wonder. Is this gift or curse? And the answer is probably both. It's a gift because it provides richness, depth, creativity, access to the unconscious, material for art and self-understanding. It's a curse because it can be overwhelming, exhausting, isolating, sometimes frightening, like most profound human experiences. It's complex. It's not purely positive or negative. It's both. And the work is learning to live with it skillfully. Learning when to pay attention to dreams and when to let them go. Learning how to integrate dream wisdom without being consumed by it. Learning how to honor your inner life while also being present in your outer life. This balance is difficult, but it's necessary because you can't spend all your time in the dream realm. You have a life to live in waking reality, relationships to maintain, responsibilities to meet, and you can't abandon those in favor of dreams. But you also can't abandon your dreams. They're too important, too revealing, too much a part of who you are. So what do you do if you're someone who dreams every day? First, you honor it. You recognize that this is part of how your mind works, how your consciousness operates. You're not weird or broken or too sensitive. You're someone with thin boundaries, with an active unconscious, with a mind that naturally moves between states. Second, you create structure around it. Keep a dream journal if that helps. Write down the dreams that feel significant, but also give yourself permission to forget. Not every dream needs to be captured, analyzed, preserved. Some can just be experienced and released. Third, you find your people. The ones who get it, who have their own rich inner lives, who won't dismiss your dreams or make you feel strange for caring about them. Fourth, you manage your sleep. Make sure you get enough rest, enough deep sleep, enough recovery. If your dream life is interfering with your waking function, talk to a professional. And fifth, you integrate. You take the wisdom from dreams, the insights, the creativity, the emotional processing, and you bring it into waking life. You use it. You let it inform your choices, your art, your understanding of yourself. But you don't let it replace waking life. You find the balance. Here's what I want people who dream every day to know. You're accessing something most people rarely touch. You're living in expanded consciousness. You're experiencing the full spectrum of what it means to be human, from the rational waking mind to the symbolic dreaming mind. And that's profound. That's valuable. That's rare. Don't diminish it. Don't let anyone convince you that dreams are just meaningless noise. They might be neurological, but that doesn't make them meaningless. Your brain is telling you stories about yourself every night. Stories full of emotion, symbol, conflict, resolution, and you're one of the few people who hears them clearly, who remembers them, who can learn from them. That's not a burden, though it can feel like one sometimes. That's a capacity, a gift, one that requires care and cultivation, but a gift nonetheless. And to those who don't dream like this, who wake up with no memory of their nights, who can't imagine what it's like to live in two worlds simultaneously, understand this. The people who dream every day aren't making it up. They're not being dramatic. They're having genuine experiences that are as real to them as waking experiences. Their emotional reactions to dreams are valid. Their need to process dreams is legitimate. And if someone shares a dream with you, they're sharing something intimate, something that came from deep inside them. So listen, be present. Don't dismiss it as just a dream, because to them, it's more than that. It's a message from themselves to themselves, and they're trusting you with it. The psychology of people who dream every day reveals something beautiful about human consciousness, that we're not singular, we're multiple. We have waking selves and dreaming selves, conscious minds and unconscious minds, rational processors and symbolic creators. And some people live more fully in that multiplicity. They don't just exist in one mode, they flow between modes. They carry messages between worlds. They're bridges between the seen and unseen parts of being human. And while that comes with challenges, disorientation, exhaustion, overwhelm, it also comes with gifts, creativity, depth, self-knowledge, access to parts of the psyche that others might never encounter. So if you dream every day, know this. You're not alone. There are others like you, living in multiple realities, processing two lives simultaneously, carrying wisdom from the unconscious into the light of day. And what you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is profound. You're honoring the full spectrum of consciousness. You're refusing to live only on the surface. You're diving deep every night, voluntarily or not, and bringing back treasures, images, insights, emotions, stories. And the world needs that. The world needs people who remember that there is more to being human than what we can see and touch and prove. That there's an inner realm as vast and real as the outer one. And you, the daily dreamer, you're the one who knows that, who lives that, who carries that truth in your bones. So dream on, remember, process, integrate, honor both your worlds, because they're both real. They're both you. And living fully in both is what it means to be whole.